So really, really a lot to choose from. But if I have to choose, and I did choose, and the first one I chose, of course, is the UN Charter. And I'll explain why the UN Charter. I think the UN Charter was really the one that gave the UN the mandate to challenge injustice, to end oppression, to dismantle colonialism, and to uphold the principle of self-determination. Did this matter? Was that just all words? But no, it made a huge difference in the real world. Actually, we saw the map of the world being rewritten. More than 80 countries gained independence after the UN Charters. Many of them were helped by the UN. So rather than having, I think, 51 countries in the world at that time, today we have 193,
yes.
Something like that.
Yes.
So a whole new map of the world. It also established a new world order based on the sovereign equality of each country. So giving every country a say, not a totally equal say, but at least giving every country a say. So the global map, the global rule book, and a global playbook. A whole new way of peaceful coexistence, a new way of solving conflict peacefully, to ensure a platform for joint action, which really is what we spoke about. So no doubt, the first one is the Charter. The second one, of course, for me, is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And really what it did, the Universal Declaration, was to expand the principle of equality between states to equality between people. And I think I plan to take this opportunity to actually honor the member from India in the drafting committee of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Because the Indian member, and she was one of only 2 women in this drafting committee, the other one, of this drafting committee, insisting that the very first article of the Universal Declaration, saying the original draft said all men are born free and equal in dignity and rights, and she kind of insisted that needed to be redrafted, and saying instead that all human beings, so not men,
yes, thank you,
are born free and equal in dignity and rights.
That was Dr. Hansa Mehta.
Absolutely, that was Dr. Hansa Mehta. So it was an impressive achievement, and she set a clear normative status for women and all genders in international law, so extending human rights to everyone. A major achievement, and I think viewed from the perspective of the political realities in the world of the late 1948, a monumental step forward. So second one. I'll just mention very briefly, and I can see the time, but the third milestone for me is about accountability. And that is the 2005 Summit Outcome Declaration, building on Kofi Annan's report, Enlarge Your Freedom. Because that was the culmination of a large push for accountability, no longer just having norms and principles, but also holding countries to account. We saw in the 90s establishment a whole number of courts, and with the 2005 summit, we also got the Human Rights Council and the Universal Periodic Reviews, where all countries are actually held accountable and they are being reviewed for whether they are practicing what they preach. So those 3 milestones, together with others that have been mentioned today, are still guiding the work of the UN, but they are challenged, as you know. Just wanted to recognize the crisis that the UN is facing. It's a financial crisis, but it is also a political crisis. We see countries abandoning the values and the principles that the UN represent, and we see an erosion of the rule-based order, and we see global impunity spreading.
Thank you, Mette. So we hear about the challenges and we hear about the milestones. Mr. Ambassador, as we just heard from Mette, India's been part of the journey from the very beginning. So today, as we celebrate 80 years, I'm just wondering, do you think that today's multilateral system reflects the world as it is, or as it was in 1945?
Thank you. It's a great day today, and congratulations to all. It is our day. UN has completed 80 years, and it's a milestone for all of us. And of course, back in 1945, India was not even independent then, and has been an original founding member. Of course, we recognized the realities of the world at that time and made a UN system in a particular way. And that political consensus of that world order is today breaking down. When we cannot find solutions inside the United Nations, then the Security Council is helpless. If the General Assembly shouts and Security Council cannot listen, then of course all these kinds of problems which are arising in the world, we are today seeing the world is being fragmented. But we know that once we realized in 1945 that there's only one planet on which we can live, and there is only one platform where we can all get together. So UN, of course, would continue to be relevant all the time because we have no other option, but we have to revitalize it. And today, to rise up to those challenges, when we see that even the major actors who had upheld the UN principles, who had made a solemn oath, today the world trade order is breaking down. There's international rules are being flouted. Even if the UN passes a resolution, that is also not being listened to. And when the wars are happening in many parts of the world, it's not only Europe or the Middle East. There are many other parts of the world where they are having hotspots and we don't even have headlines for them. Then we see that there's a serious challenge today facing the United Nations. But we have to revitalize, we have to come together. And as we say, India also says that UN must reflect the system, the current realities of the world order. The world GDP growth rates have been shifting. The largest populations are coming from somewhere. Some people don't have voices in the United Nations. And we also forget the historical injustice which was meted out to Africa. They were not even remembered. And I would just say that even during India's G20 presidency 2 years back, India brought this idea, and finally we got it, that Africa would be permanently represented in the G20. So in a smaller platform, we are able to do it. On a larger platform, how do we do it? That is the challenge. We all have to come together. We have to see that how we take this combined steps forward, and then only UN can become relevant. We have so many challenges in the world today. There is the crisis of food, crisis of nutrition, crisis of security. We saw when the pandemic broke down, there are many major countries in the world just closed their borders. And there was also a hoarding of vaccines and implements which would save your lives. At that time, who was thinking of all the deprived people of the world? And we have to come together. So I would say that values are universal, but they tend to break down if we don't reaffirm them every day. And by our practices every day, we have to find those values again and again. And if we don't do that, then of course there's a great problem that we will just slip back on that. So we should all come together and reflect that how we can make UN more universal, more representatives of today's world order, and that is the only way we can go forward.
Dion, yes, round of applause, thank you. And the only way to go forward, we hear here, your research has kind of traced the concept of development from aid and reconstruction to sustainability and governance. How has this changing roles of the UN, as we just heard mentioned here, shaped global ideas of progress and solidarity?
Yeah, well, it's shaped them immensely, I think. I mean, to me, it's 80 years of insisting on matters and issues that too easily fall off the radars of individual nation states. I mean, inequality.
I would say that we are still to achieve a nuclear weapons-free world. And let's not forget disarmament. We have to get there. It's a threat to our entire existence. In the multiplicity of other issues, sometimes we forget that. But India brings that resolution every year, and hopefully one day we would achieve that.
Thank you. Madam.
Thanks for watching Indiavision. Please subscribe to keep updated on any new videos that we release, and give us a thumbs up with your comments if you've liked this video.